तत्परं पर्याय विद्महे ज्ञानलिङ्गेश्वराय धीमहि तन्नो गुरुः प्रचोदयात्। ओम योग महर्षि डॉक्टर स्वामी गीतानंदगिरि गुरु महाराज की जय। पुदुवै कलैमामणि योगचारिणी पुदुवै शक्ति अम्मा जी मीनाक्षी देवी भवनानी गुरु माता की जय। ओम नमस्ते, स्वागतम, वणक्कम, bonjour, buongiorno, buonasera, huya more, boreda, kia ora, salamat pagi, ayubovan, ayushman bhava, shubh dinam, subhrabad. Welcome to the 70th session of our Scintillating Saturdays. An opportunity for each and every one of us to come together, contemplating something much bigger, much higher, much deeper than our usual mundane contemplations. The topic of tapa. Tapa, often also referred to as tapas, is one of the niyamas, and it also is part of the most important practice called Kriya Yoga, where Tapa, Swadhyaya and Ishvara Pranidhanani come together into Kriya Yoga. It falls into the Niyama Saucha Santosha Tapa Swadhyaya Ishvara Pranidhana. Those are the 5 Niyamas. So it is one of the niyamas, an observance to live by, an aspect, a principle of living, mindful living that enables the humane aspects of us to manifest. And it is part of the Kriya Yoga, which is the methodology to eradicate the kleshas that are at the root of karma itself. Hence, tapa plays a vital role in our yoga sadhana. When we talk of tapa, often the other word used is tapasya. And someone who is embodying tapas, tapasya becomes a tapas win. So a tapas win, you win in tapas. Tapas win is one, a tapas win, is one who is embodying the principle of tapa. So then the question comes, what is tapa? Because normally when we talk of tapasya, we refer to something that is very difficult. Doing something that is very difficult is considered a tapasya. And for many people, the life itself is their tapas. Swamiji and Ammaji have often referred to this by saying that most people, their life itself is their tapas. Their family is their tapas, their job is their tapas, their children are the tapas. You know, the life becomes a life of tapasya. So, when we think of tapasya and tapas, we often think of this yogi in the high Himalayas, someplace near Gangotri, Yamunotri, Kedarnath and Badrinath. You know, one of those places where the yogi is standing on one leg, arms up into Anjali Mudra, standing in Vrikshasana, and staying in that position for years and years and years and years and performing tapas. In fact, in our Vedic tradition, the pan-Indian cultural tradition, you often find these stories of the great rishis, the great munis, who did intense tapasya. as young as the 6-year-old Rishi, Dhruva. Dhruva, who at the age of 6 decided to do intense tapasya to have the vision of Lord Narayana himself and be blessed to become the pole star, Dhruva Nakshatra, the pole star guiding us all. Dhruve tad gati jnanam. By contemplating Dhruva, we understand where we are going, what is the path through which we are moving. We have, all the rishis have done tapasya. Vishwamitra is known for it. Because Vishwamitra was a king, got into an ego battle with sage Vashishta, decided that he was going to become better than Vashishta, and started doing all this tapasya, penance. So the word penance, austerity, has become synonymous with the word tapasya. And he used to do all this tapasya. And he would attain some siddhi, because at the end of the tapasya, all your efforts bear fruit. And then he will do something like curse somebody, or he'll go out and help somebody, like Trishanku being helped into the heavens, or he'll get caught up with one of the apsaras like Menaka. And so what happened is all the fruits of his tapasya would go waste, and then he had to restart. It often sounds like, that board game, Snakes and Ladders. Until finally, he was at that zenith of his ability, and then from the blessings of Vashishta, he gets the title of Brahma Rishi. We often also hear of great tapasya by the asuras. Hiranyaksha, Hiranyakashipu, Ravana. All of these guys, they used to do intense tapas until one of the gods, usually the fall guy was usually Brahma, who would come and bless them with whatever they wanted. And they always wanted immortality. They wanted that they should rule over the whole universe and never die. Sounds familiar, like many of the people in the world today also. People are paying money to make sure that the body can be preserved, so that in the future, if science finds a way to come back alive, they want to come back alive in the same body. What messed up thinking. These asuras wanted to be immortal, but because they were asuras, there was always something lacking, and so they always made one mistake in their request at the end of tapasya. And so the boon always became a bane. The boon became a bane. And so Ravana thought, no man can kill me. And so he got killed by a man. Who was the man? Lord Narayana in human form. Hiranyakashipu obeyed all those rules. Not inside, not outside, all that. And finally Narayana in the form of Lord Narasimha found a way to go through those loopholes. Our gods were very good legal thinkers. They always found the loopholes in all the boons the asuras had got. So normally when we talk about tapasya, we are talking about intense austerity, the ability to keep going in the face of adversity. So if you want to understand tapas, whenever life gives you an adverse situation, and instead of giving up, you say, give me more. The one time you say, give me more. When there are tough times, the tough get going. So what is happening is that in the face of adversity, you are showing your capacity to stick to the path, stickability. Last week we concluded the 52 lessons step by step, and with the inaugural and conclusion 54 weeks. 54 weeks of a commitment that was made by so many made that commitment and kept to it. Stickability. So your capacity to stick to the path in the face of adversity becomes tapas. What is that quality that enables you to stick to the task you have set out to do? Stick to the task you have set out to do. The quality is called discipline. Hence, tapa may be understood as discipline, self-discipline. This is another way to understand it. Not going and standing in the Himalayas on one leg with your arms up. After a few years, you will not be able to get your leg and arms down because they would have got stuck there. You will not be able to move after that. There are yogis who get into those problems. What is more important? Wherever you are in life, can you stick to your chosen path? If you have made a choice, can you stick to it, come what may? This is where tapa as intense self-discipline. Now, if you look at the word tapa, it implies friction. It implies heat. It implies burning. So what are you burning away? You are burning away all that you do not need. When a rocket goes off into space, the satellite launcher, it takes off with such heat. You see the column of fire, that energy that propels the rocket up, the thrust of the rocket. The rocket needs that thrust to go up and go out into the atmosphere, stratosphere, ionosphere, all of that sphere. And as it goes there, all that is not needed falls away until finally the satellite goes into its geostationary orbit. The rest of it falls away on the way. It is most probably burnt. It burns away, a few pieces fall to earth. Most of it gets burnt. The propulsion requires energy. And how do you generate the energy? Burning that which you do not need for the higher life. All that was holding you back, you are burning away. That is why tapa is part of the Kriya Yoga. Remember, what is the purpose of Kriya Yoga? To attenuate the kleshas. So there is an intense burning process. And what is this burning? It is the friction. The friction of growth. The friction of growth is tapa. We talk about growing pains. Teething pains, growing pains. Evolving pains. Tapa implies that you are moving against the normal patterns. And that is why when you want to go into the process of parinama, parinama is transformation. Ekagrata parinama, nirodha parinama, samadhi parinama, all of these parinamas are there. The transformative process of yoga. In that transformative process, parinama, you are going against the routine patterns that everybody is caught up in. Everybody is caught up in going downstream, you are going upstream. Everybody is running down the mountain, you are running up the mountain. And Nilachal and his running yoga. You are running up the mountain. Running down the mountain is different, running up the mountain is different. When two surfaces, you have a surface, if you are not moving any place, there is no friction. Well, there is basic friction, but no real friction. And if you move in the same direction, again, friction is not a big issue. But when you start to move against the common flow, when you move against the common life, when you move in a direction against the flow of the herds, there's going to be friction, intense friction. You rub your palms like this. Wow, what heat is coming? The heat, this is the heat of friction. Ooh. Ooh. Can you see the flames? When you rub, you are rubbing in opposite directions. You are generating friction. When you move in the opposite direction to the common living, you are generating friction, heat, to burn away that which is not required for you to find yourself. On the journey to finding out who you truly are, koham, koham, soham, soham. 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 Koham, soham, koham, soham. Koham, soham, koham, soham. In that journey, who am I? To finding out who you are. You need to burn away all that attachment, all that non-you stuff. The non-you has to be burnt away for you to manifest. That burning away of the non-you, the anatma, for the sake of the atma to manifest. Because the anatma is taken to be real because of avidya klesha. You have to burn it away so that you realize what is the true Atma. Atma Darshana can be there. Atma Bhava and Atma Darshana can be there. We need to move against it, so there will be friction. That friction will generate heat. Heat will burn away, burning away the impurities. That is why Maharishi Patanjali, what a amazing, amazing universal person. Maharishi Patanjali tells us, Kayendriya siddhihi ashuddhi kshayat tapasaha. Tapasaha, tapas. What is this tapa? It is the methodology through which you burn away the ashuddhi, the impurities. Impurities meaning all that is not you. All that is not you at what level? At the level of the kaya. Kaya is the physical embodiment. The embodiment is kaya. So you are burning away the ashuddhi at the kaya level, which is the sthula sharira, gross level. And indriya. Indriya refers to the sensory apparatus. The sensory apparatus and its constant engagement with the world in which we live, the web of the senses. Creating all the attachments that hold you back. It's like all the ropes that are holding you. They have tied you down. Like Gulliver in Gulliver's Travel is tied down by all those small creatures in, Lilliput. He's all tied down. You are held down by your bondage, by the impurities that are binding you, by the not you, the impermanent, anitya, the impure, asuchi, all the suffering, dukkha, and all the non-self, anatma, is binding you. And it's binding you through kaya and indriya. The body and the sensory engagement is holding you back. And you need to burn away all the impurities for the sake of their highest level of perfection, siddhi. Through tapas, you purify your body so that your body becomes the best body you can have. You purify your senses so that your sensory apparatus can be at its best level, so that you can then move into pratyahara, that then bridges the internal aspects of samyama, dharana, dhyana, samadhi. Kayendriya siddhihi ashuddhi kshayat. Kshaya means to destroy. Kayendriya siddhihi ashuddhi kshayat tapasaha. That tapa is doing a kshaya of the ashuddhi so that your kaya indriya can attain siddhi, the perfect state. You are making sure you are in the best possible condition for the higher experiences to manifest. Because the higher experiences cannot manifest if you are a lump of clay. You have to move all that which is not, so that the statue you are to be. Out of that lump of clay, out of that stone, you have to bring from that stone which is dull, inert, tamasika, you have to move through the rajasika to create that idol that you are. The divine that you are has to manifest. You have to remove all that is not. You have to chip away. Chip, 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 chip. You have to chip away like the sculptor. Chipping away at the stone until finally that statue can manifest. The idol can manifest. We are chipping away at ourselves. Imagine you are chipping away at all that is not you, so that finally you can manifest. That is tapas. Chipping away. Ammaji wrote a beautiful song so many years ago about how the divine is a sculptor. And in that, blows of thy hammer falling like rain. The divine is enabling us to sculpt ourselves into our own inherent divinity. We have to move, we have to remove all that is not us so that we can manifest. You are eradicating, chipping away at everything that is not you. All the anatma, all the klesha, all the karma bandha, so that finally you can shine. Now in growth, in manifestation, to become something of value, to become something that is valuable and something of value, usually there's a lot of friction involved. For example, a diamond. A diamond is just an ordinary carbon. A diamond is just carbon that decided it would take come what may to become the best version of itself. And so the diamond went through the stage of being charcoal, went through the stage of being graphite, and finally manifested as diamonds. To become a diamond, that carbon had to go through intense struggle of tapa. The carbon goes through the tapa to become a diamond. In the oyster, the pearl that is found. The pearl that is found in the oyster, it just doesn't happen. It's not, oh, it's so nice. No, no, no. It's not nice at all. In that oyster, a small grain of sand or something goes in. The friction is there, the reaction that is occurring, and finally that pearl is produced. A pearl of great price is not produced without friction and struggle, tapas. A diamond of great value is not produced without great struggle and great price. If we are to be the diamond we are, if we are to be the divine that we are, it's not going to come easy. And people say, why is the spiritual life so tough? Well, because you want to find out that higher state. And there's so much of nonsense that you are filled with. We are filled with so much of mala that we have to eradicate all that ashuddhi. All that ashuddhi, that is why tapa is such an important part of one's sadhana. I like to think of tapa, and the phoenix. The phoenix, which is immortal. But what it has to do is it has to sort of burn away, and from the ashes it rises as a new version of itself. You are burning away, and from those ashes you are rising as the better version of yourself. Each time you burn away that which you need to burn away, you are coming up. Resurrection, yes, Shruti. From the ashes, that is what tapas implies. That we are constantly in that process of transformation. That constant process of parinama. That is why Patanjali says, parinama tapa. Because you are going guna vritti virodacha. The gunas are all going, the guna patterns are all going in one direction. Because they go from, remember, from Purusha through Prakriti, the gunas are always going away this way. Now you are going against, you are retracing your way back. You are swimming against the current. You are moving against the direction in which the hordes are moving. Going to be very tough, okay? That is why Maharishi Patanjali has advised, when you find people who are trying to be good, please be cheerful for them. Be their support system. Reach out and support them. Mudita Punya. Because when you find such people, they are rare. Support them. This is so important when you look at tapa. Tapa is this constant effort that you are burning away that which was, so that that which is can manifest. And then that which is burnt away for that which can be to manifest. The same process of the caterpillar to the butterfly. It is a type of representation of tapa. There is that constant purification. There is that constant growth and transformation. There is that constant refinement that is happening in this process. And my dear Acharya Birju Maharaj, he has written an amazing book. To understand it, you need to love yoga, you need to love science, and you need to love genetics. Okay? Because if you don't love genetics, if you don't love yoga, if you don't like science, well, it's not going to be nice for you. But if you love yoga, if you love science, and especially genetics, he has brought the whole Yoga Sutra into an understanding of our genetic, epigenetic expression and how we are moving towards that through the Yoga Sutra pattern. Intense reading, a bit tough on your brain cells, but is very, very, very innovative and amazing. Amazing. I really enjoyed it. Tough reading, okay? It's not easy reading. It will take you many days and lot of thinking. When he talks about tapas, he brings out a concept of cellular autophagy. Autophagy. Because in India, what we do is we split up each letter and we pronounce it. Because that's what we do in Samskrita. In Sanskritam, every letter that is written is pronounced. In Tamil, every letter that is written, for example, my dear Madhavanji, he has written Vanakkam Ayya. Va-na ikka im Ayya. Every letter will be pronounced. You don't have any skipping through it. And so when we see this, we cannot get it as autophagy or something. It has to be autophagy because, we have to pronounce every letter and every syllable that is there. Auto means automatic. Auto means self. Auto means that which is going to happen constantly. Phagy means to eat. So the automatic eating of the self. I think there's a Zen koan. What happens when a mouth tries to eat itself? A mouth eating itself. Like that. We are constantly eating ourselves at the cellular level. What is happening at the cellular level is, within the cytoplasm, anything that is not proper, anything that has become defective, anything that has become ashuddhi, is immediately broken down by the lysosomes and eradicated. All that is not functional, all that is not part of the cellular homeostatic mechanism. That is why cellular autophagy is an important aspect of maintaining homeostasis right down at your cellular level. What we call the milieu interior, the interior environment and the maintenance of normalcy in all the systems, homeostasis. Samatvam yoga uchate. Homeostasis for me is samatvam. What is happening is constantly, even at the cellular level, you are constantly burning away that which is not needed so that that which is can function at its optimal level. It is a tapa happening right at your cellular level. Every cell is functioning in the spirit of tapasya. And this is why when tapasya becomes a principle of living, Niyamas, yama niyamas are principles of living. Don't think about them as codes of conduct and somebody's rules. They are principles of living. When you live by the principle of tapasya, what you are doing is constantly you are engaging with yourself, finding out what is it that is outdated. And you are removing the outdated so that the newer version. This is what happens when you have a computer. What happens with a computer? Even last night my computer said you have to reboot to install the new updates. You have to keep on updating yourself. You have to install new updates and remove those old processes that are not working in your computer. In your phone, you keep on updating your software. You have to update your software by removing that which you don't need. It's again defragmentation of your drive, your computer drive, defragmentation. Monisha ji, nice to see you here. Acharya Birju's book is on Amazon, so I think you can get it. And if not, you just send me an email and I'll ask him to send you a copy. It's an e-copy as of now. I don't know if the hard copy has come out yet. When we want to be the best version of ourselves, we have to constantly engage with that which is not enabling us to be that best version of ourselves. See, if your computer is to function and you are totally fragmented, nothing's going to happen. You have to defragment your drive. You have to update your software. You have to remove those programs. Whenever your computer is not working or phone is not working, it says, can you remove some programs? And it tells you, you have never used this program in the last 22 years. And you still have it and it's blocking up your system. Delete. Delete the unnecessary files so that you will function optimally. This is the computer version of tapasya. Delete the unnecessary files so that your computer will function optimally. What is your computer? Kaya Indriya. Your computer is Kaya Indriya. You want it to function optimally, but you have all these outdated models. You have all these files that have never been used. You have those parts of your body, those aspects of your senses, and those parts of your cognitive process that have never been used. What do you need to do? Remove that which you don't need. Again, declutter. Remove that which is not us so that we can shine forth. Kaya Indriya Siddhihi Ashuddhik Shayat Tapasaha. And yes, Aishwarya, our bodies are so intelligent. I love this concept of intelligent design because of that. Because as a medical student, when I went in and started studying anatomy, physiology, biochemistry, I think for me, one of the greatest aspects of it all was, wow, what an amazing creation we are. What type of wisdom is there in the universe that has created this most magnificent aspect of who we are as a human being? When you start to realize how everything has been thought of by nature. Everything has been thought of by nature. Autophagy, cellular autophagy. Remove the debris. Remove the debris. Burn up the debris. Remove those things that are hindering your growth. Can you do that in life? Can we mindfully, consciously, with awareness, remove that which is impeding our growth? That is the challenge of tapasya. Not going and standing on the top of the mountain in Vrikshasana. That's fine for Instagram, okay? That's fine for Instagram yoga. But if you really want to transform yourself, if you want to manifest the highest aspect of yourself, that siddhi of yourself, siddhi is success, perfection, success, the highest. Now, if you want that to happen, seriously, every moment in your life is a choice. What type of thoughts are we having? Are those thoughts required or not? burn away the unnecessary thoughts, especially these thoughts that say, I'm not good enough. Seriously, you are good enough, that is why you are here. You are good enough, that is why you are here. I don't have a yoga body. You have the body you need for yoga. Well, my life doesn't suit yoga. No, you have a life that suits yoga. It's just that you have not yet seen it because all the junk has covered your vision. What are the thoughts? Self-hate, self-loathing, allowing others to dictate who you are. Autonomy. Regain your autonomy. Regain your autonomy. All those shackles that are holding you back from being yourself, the best you. No, not that tamasika you. And this is why, yes, Brahmanand, tapas for me is abhyasa. And over the next few weeks, we'll look at the Vairagya part. Vairagya will be Ishvara Pranidhana. Vairagya will be Ishvara Pranidhana. Tapas is Abhyasa. And Swadhyaya is knowing where Abhyasa stops and where Vairagya begins. Abhyasa, Vairagya, those two components, and Tapas, Swadhyaya, Ishvara Pranidhana. There's a question from Puneet. How much is Tapas different from Aparigraha? See, Aparigraha, if you have listened to my Scintillating Saturday, is where you stop grabbing. You are decluttering by not adding anything new. So aparigraha is not adding anything new. Tapas is burning away all that is old. I hope this will give you clarity. Tapas is burning away that which you don't need. Aparigraha is not bringing in something new. Yeah. Luvena, thank you for that. You know, I'll tell you something. Being brought up in yoga and then going into medicine, it is the best thing that can have ever happened to me. Because what happens is often, you have a medical view and then you come to yoga. And so what happens is we put yoga into a box. But when you have yoga and you go into medicine, you see medicine in new light. For me, every aspect of physiology has spirituality in it. Every aspect of science, I can see the spirit because of the yoga backing. And I tell you, it's beautiful. Nilachal, beautiful question. Is there a difference between tapa of niyama and tapa of kriya yoga? Wow, that's a good one. Intelligent question there. It is really, really special. It is really, really special because you see what happens. The Kriya Yoga is embedded into Niyama. But it is like your heart is embedded into your chest. Your heart is embedded into your chest. But your chest is not only having the heart, it is also having the lungs. And the heart and the lungs have to work together for you to be healthy. So Kriya Yoga is the heart embedded into the Niyama part, which is your thorax, and Saucha Santosha, your lungs there. You have to have this interaction going on. So though they are all one, each has its own component. When you understand the flow, I think this is the important thing. When you take tapa on its own, it is exclusively a niyama. Tapa on its own will be a niyama. So it has its own benefits. I told you the rocket going into space, the pearl becoming the pearl it is to be, the diamond becoming the diamond it is to be, you becoming the you are to be. Well, that is tapa. By eradicating all that is not you. However, when the tapa is coupled with Swadhyaya and Ishvara Pranidhana, the combination is a very potent combination. Because tapa is giving you the impetus to burn away. It's a lot of doing. Swadhyaya is starting to reflect. And Ishvara Pranidhana is being. So doing, being and reflection that lies in between. Abhyasa, Vairagya, reflection. That is connecting. So when you look at Tapa as part of the Kriya Yoga, it is playing a role of being the jumping board. The Bhangi, the jumping board. It's like, it is a component that gives you the takeoff that then along with Swadhyaya and Ishvara Pranidhana eradicate the kleshas. So Tapa as a niyama, as an exclusive niyama, is only geared towards eradicating that which needs to be eradicating, cellular autophagy, so that your function right down at your subcellular level and up to your universal nature will be optimal, efficient. Optimal living. Optimal living with minimum damage to the environment. Tapa. But when you put it in the context of Kriya Yoga, it starts to become the force of acceleration that then along with Swadhyaya and Ishvara Pranidhana enable the kleshas to be eradicated. So on its own, it is talking of Ashuddhi being Kshaya. But in the context of Kriya Yoga, it is part of the whole sequence. So it depends on how that sequence occurs. I personally feel that Kriya Yoga of Maharishi Patanjali is a greater contribution than Ashtanga Yoga itself. We are all caught up with Ashtanga Yoga. But I tell you, Patanjali's mastermind has understood the role of the kleshas in all human suffering. All human suffering is klesha based. And because of the klesha, karma. Klesha moola karmashaya. Drishta adrishta janma vedaniyaha. All the suffering of this lifetime that we know and those lifetimes we don't know, all of that is based on the karma that has come from the root of the klesha. And that is why Patanjali's Kriya Yoga, mark my words, Patanjali's Kriya Yoga is the greatest pathway if you really want to find yourself. Because what is it that we are? We are Ishvara with Klesha Karma. Ishvara with Klesha Karma is you and me. If we eradicate Klesha Karma, bang, we are again Ishvara. Very simple. Formula is very simple. Ishvara plus Klesha Karma is equal to us. And that is why it is so important that we understand the role of Tapa. Now, in all of these talks, I am taking each topic separately, but you have to put it together. It's like when you learn about the kidneys, you learn about the kidneys. Good, very nice. But don't forget your kidneys are related to your lungs. Because how you breathe will influence your kidneys. How your kidneys work will influence your breathing, because both are related to acid-base balance of your whole blood system that affects every cell in your body. But when you learn it, you learn kidneys separately. You learn the lungs separately, the brain separately. It doesn't mean your brain is different than your kidneys. They are all related. And that is why all these concepts, we have to put them together. Only when all the concepts and teachings and principles and practices of yoga are put together do we have the Purna Swarupa of yoga. Purna Swarupa of yoga. Whereas the modern yoga scholars, well, God bless them. These guys are so hell-bent on breaking it all down. Deconstruct yoga. What nonsense. Deconstruct yoga. Break down, reductionist approach to yoga. And no wonder these guys cannot understand me. I have one of them who's so busy on Twitter trying to beat me up. He doesn't know that it's tough to beat me up. Huh? I'm just enjoying the fun of all his compliments when he says he cannot, that I speak nonsense. I'm so happy about it. That's the greatest compliment. When these people say you speak nonsense, it means you're speaking sense, for God's sake. Huh? Break it down. Kill it. Make it piecemeal. These are the people who when they see a butterfly, they say, catch it, staple it down into your board and label it. This is the butterfly. This is the head. This is the antenna. This is the wing. This is the color. This is the species. And they're so happy. I know everything about butterflies. For God's sake, for yoga's sake, for your sake, for the sake of life, when you see a butterfly, understand the butterfly in its wholesomeness. Understand it as a living entity. Understand it as an Atma. Understand it as a dynamic living entity that is constantly engaging with the living environment. Do not kill it just so that you can try to understand it in your limited context. Yoga has to be understood in its wholesomeness. Purna Swarupa of yoga has to be understood. And this is why, though we are looking at tapa here, tapa as a niyama, a principle of living, where does it come? Saucha, purity, santosha, contentment. So purity and contentment, and then you are feeding it. What are you doing? You are saying, what is it? Because once you manifest saucha, you know what is asuchi. Remember? Anitya, asuchi, dukkha, natmasu, same one. You have understood it. So now you can deal with it with tapa. But if you don't have saucha, you don't know what is the asuchi and what needs to be burnt away. You will end up burning away your engine, your CPU. Don't burn your CPU. Remove those files that are preventing you from functioning optimally. Remove that which is not needed. Know what is not needed. That is why the constant growth of yoga. What is the constant growth of yoga? Viveka Khyati. Viveka Khyati is the constant sort of reference point you are moving towards. And where does this come? Yoganga Anushtanat. Yoganga Anushtanat Ashuddhikshaye Jnana Deepti Aviveka Khyate. The whole goal of the yoga anga. The goal of the yoga anga. Who has said this? Maharishi Patanjali. When he introduces the angas, the limbs, again not steps, limbs of yoga. Because they are all interconnected. I told you, heart and lungs are connected, brain and kidneys are connected. Sometimes the brain and body is not connected for so many. Interconnectivity is understood. Everything is understood. Yoga anga anushtanat, by living. He starts Atha yoga anushasanam, discipline. Anushtanat, a disciplined adoption of the way of life. Tapa, again discipline. Yoga is discipline. What is discipline? Focusing yourself on the goal. Not getting sidetracked. That is why tapasya, remember Vishwamitra, whenever he wanted to attain something, he did tapasya. Indra. Who is Indra? The Lord of the senses. Sense a sensory trap. The original honey traps. The original honey traps. The original honey traps were set by Indra, sending Menaka down so that Vishwamitra will be kept busy with Menaka for some time and forget his discipline. Self-discipline. Not an externalized discipline. Not somebody saying, oh, be disciplined. No. You are telling yourself. Why are you being disciplined? For the self. For the sake of the self. Self-discipline as a choice. Self-discipline as a choice is tapa. And when we start to be disciplined in our thinking, disciplined in our words, disciplined in our actions, disciplined in our emotions, disciplined in our activities, at that point, we start to become the best version of ourselves. And yes, Luvena, it is true. You know, another aspect is that they all have to work together. The problem with this steps translation, so many people, you know, we have to retranslate all of this. All yogic wisdom has to be retranslated. Because what has happened is we have really got stuck Ashtanga has 8 limbs, and I'm not talking of the Ashtanga, which is not Ashtanga at all. But anyway, you see the 8 steps as if, there's a hierarchy. It's not a hierarchy. It's not a hierarchy. They all work together. You have to approach it in a step-by-step manner, but they all work together. Each one feeding each other. Just as every system in your body works harmoniously with each other for the sake of the whole. I think that's enough for today. But just remember, Tapas Swadhyaya Ishvara Pranidhana as Kriya Yoga, Saucha Santosha Tapas Swadhyaya Ishvara Pranidhanani Niyamaha as Niyama, Tapa as a key aspect of discipline, the impetus for our inner growth. Discarding that which needs to be discarded so that we, like the phoenix, can rise from the ashes, resurrect ourselves into the better version of ourselves, constantly growing towards the highest goal, which is regaining that Ishvara Swarupa, who we truly are. Namaste, Dhanyavadaha. Such a blessing to have you all with me. Let us continue this journey. It's been 70 Saturdays now, and let's keep going as long as we can, supporting each other. Remember, Mudita Punya. Cheer on those who are doing a good job, and you all are amazing. Love you all.